What's up, guys? It's Dr. Price, and I'm here to help you prepare for the USMLE. I'm the CEO and founder of Action Potential Mentoring, and I'm currently in vascular surgery. So let's get this started. Thank you again for joining, and let's learn and let's get better together.
All right, but pyrazinamide is a side effect of gout. So let's just do a little quick integration here with gout. So what's the disorder that afflicts children and they have gout-like symptoms? All right, so if you're thinking Lesh-Nyhan, then you're correct. All right, so how I remember Lesh-Nyhan, I'm just gonna make a little side note here. So Lesh-Nyhan, this is a throwback to biochem. If this disease sounds unfamiliar to you guys, it's probably because it wasn't really emphasized in biochem, but this is a disease that for sure that they should have taught in biochem. So let's go over it real quick. So what it is it's a disorder of urate overproduction. So you have basically too much uric acid. All right, and so what happens here is you get something called an HGPRT deficiency. So it's a hypoxanthine guanethine phosphoribosyl transferase deficiency. All right, so you have to know this for the test, that Lesh-Nyhan is an HGPRT deficiency. All right, and so what kind of symptoms do they get? Well, one of my good friends made up the mnemonic here. He said, Lesh-Nyhan, well, it's more like I'm munching my hand, because they actually get self-mutilation and they get aggressive and actually bite themselves. So Lesh-Nyhan, nah, it's more like munching my hand. All right, so we'll add that on here for the mnemonic. All right, so it's munch my hand, Lesh-Nyhan. All right, so look for aggression, self-mutilation, etc. All right, and so because these babies, and this usually affects babies, they're going to have so much uric acid, is you're actually going to see urate crystals in their diaper. All right, so when they excrete these uric acids, it's going to cause orangish crystals in their diaper. All right, so basically sometimes they'll say the baby's diaper looks sandy. All right, so it looks like it's full of sand because it has all of this uric acid orange crystals in it. So it's like, oh, my baby looks like he has sand all throughout his Pampers, but he didn't go to the beach. So that's going to be talking about Lesh-Nyhan. All right, so that's kind of like the baby version of if you have a uric acid disorder. Here's a good tie-in for anybody that's looked at their glycogen storage diseases. So I really want to tie this in here for you guys. Which glycogen storage disease has the association of having gout? All right, I'll give you a second here. So think back to your biochem. So the glycogen storage disease, number one, called von Gerke disease. So von Gerke has gout. So how you can remember that is the G for von Gerke and the G for gout. So they're both it's gonna present with gout-like symptoms. All right, so you get hyperuricemia with hypoglycemia, and the G here stands again for part of the mnemonic. All right, and you're gonna get hepatomegaly as well, so enlargement of your liver. All right, so that's some helpful tie-ins for whenever you think about gout. And so there's obviously tons of things we can ask about gout. We could say, how can you treat it? Really the first thing is to fix your diet, because oftentimes people with gout are either they have too much alcohol in their diet or they have too much red meat, because red meat, remember, you're going to have all those purines build up, and so you have a difficult time excreting that. So what happens here is, let's just make a little note down here. So let's just talk about regular gout itself now. So you have diets that are high in purines. And so what are the two main things you look for in the question stem? So that's going to be either people that have a lot of alcohol use or people that eat a lot of red meat. All right, and so the problem here is when you break down purines, you result with uric acid. All right, so purines break down into uric acid. All right, and the uric acid is what causes the gout because it deposits in your joints And now you get uric acid crystallization, which is a gout flare. All right, and so you get these acute attacks, and then you get chronic gout. And if you've ever seen anybody that has gout, then you've seen that they have something called tophi. All right, so let's take a quick little tour to Google Images and show you guys what tophi look like. All right, so if you look here, it's this really big enlargement of your joint, and it really looks painful, and oftentimes it is super, super painful. So you'll have these swollen up joints. They often look inflamed, and this is your uric acid deposition, your urate monosodium crystallization of your joint. So you really look for a ton of uric acid. If it goes to your joints, you can get tophi. And so tophi is a big buzzword for gout. And how I think about it, keep in mind, it doesn't have to be your toes, but I just think of tophi, because oftentimes you get an inflamed toe whenever the crystals deposit in your toes. Like if you look back to these pictures here, look at this. A lot of these are like, for example, here's your toe, so tophi. And you can just kind of keep this picture in your mind here anytime that you hear tophi. Okay, so super, super painful uric acid deposition in your joints. It's usually going to involve one joint at first. So you'll see sometimes in like teaching resources, you'll say that gout is usually going to start out as monoarticular. So it affects like one toe. And how I remember that is it's not like toes phi, it's just tophi. It's just one toe, meaning it's one joint, monoarticular. All right, so it's going to be, the joint is going to be really red and inflamed. So we'll say erythema. It's going to be warm. All right, and it's going to be swollen. Okay, and so what do you do for these patients? So first things first, you can actually aspirate the fluid in the joint. And so that's called your synovial fluid. So anytime you have a joint, there's synovial fluid in the joint. And so what you look for is crystals. All right, so you look for something called negatively birefringent needle crystals. So let me write this out here. So you look for negative birefringent needle crystals. All right, so let's look at what these look like here. So we'll do negative birefringent crystals. And this is essential for you guys to know on your histology to be able to diagnose gout. And I'm telling you guys, like histo is such a slept on section. It's my least favorite section, but I'll show you guys when it's something that's high yield to know for your boards. So you see these crystals that are kind of like the yellow needles. That's what you're looking for gout. So you will get the exactly same types of questions. This picture right here is probably straight off of UWorld, to be honest, because you get these exact same types of pictures where you see all these yellow needles on your screen. That's gout right there. So that's monosodium urate crystals, which is just uric acid. All right, super, super high yield to know. Okay, so they come in, they've got these negatively birefringent needle crystals, and then the negative birefringent just means that it's yellow, basically. And what do? Well, you tell them to fix their diet, it doesn't work. You tell them to stop eating the alcohol, the red meat, the seafood, they still get the symptoms. First things first is if they're having an acute attack. So let's break this down into acute versus chronic attacks. And let me make some more space here for us because we're running out of space. All right, so we'll say it can either be an acute or a chronic gout attack. All right, so to treat acute attacks, you basically want to stop the inflammation as fast as possible. So you want to really give them either like NSAIDs, all right, or steroids. And then another medication you can give them is colchicine. All right, so NSAIDs obviously decreases inflammation. That's the whole role. Steroids, so give them like a prednisone pack. That can decrease the inflammation. And then the colchicine, this is an interesting drug. So let's just talk about colchicine for just 1 second here. So colchicine, it's going to work on your microtubules of your cell. All right, so that is really, really high yield to know. So let's draw this in here. So colchicine, it's going to work on the microtubules of your cell. So it's going to block microtubule polymerization. All right, and so that's going to stop in a decrease of neutrophil chemotaxis because you can't pull them to the site if your microtubules don't work. All right, if your neutrophils don't get there, guess what? That causes decreased inflammation. Okay, so now you just learned another really important fact about gout is, guess what? The synovial fluid is loaded with crystals of neutrophils. All right, so you have these negatively birefringent crystals, but you also have tons and tons of neutrophils. And guess what? That was a ComBank question that I had no idea because it wasn't anything in first aid at the time in the edition of first aid that I had been studying. And guess what? They give you a question and it basically is just an aspiration of your synovial joint. And you're like, okay, cool, I can do this. You're looking for the fluid in it and you're like, all right, well, it's not giving me anything too helpful with the crystals. They intentionally left that out of the question, but they said that is a really, really high amount of neutrophils. And you're like, okay, cool. So if there's a bunch of neutrophils, I'm thinking it might be septic arthritis. Okay, so it might be septic arthritis. But the difference is between gout and septic arthritis is going to have a higher amount of neutrophils. And of course, you can have a gram stain for some kind of a bacteria as well, which would not be present with gout. But the neutrophils are going to be way higher with septic arthritis. So you're looking for neutrophils over like 50,000 if it's going to be septic arthritis. Okay, so if it's gout, it's going to be less than 50,000, but it's going to be neutrophil predominant because the neutrophils, they come in here and try and engulf all of that uric acid. And they can't, and they basically degranulate and cause even more inflammation. So long story short, while we're talking about this, is you give colchicine. Colchicine comes in here and it blocks the microtubules from polymerizing. So now the microtubules of your cell, so let's just draw a little cell out here for visualization. If here's your cell and you have all these microtubules, all right, so if they're trying to pull the neutrophils around, they're not able to if you give them colchicine. So now the neutrophils don't chemotaxis into the joints, so you drop the inflammation. Okay, so that's your acute gout treatments. For chronic gout, what you can do is you can give them something called allopurinol. So the best treatment is going to be allopurinol. All right, and there's a few other things that you can give, but allopurinol and kind of its cohort is called febuxostat. Which I'll just throw in here. This one's a little bit lower yield. All right, but what they do is they basically both block xanthine oxidase. All right, so they block your xanthine oxidase. And so if you hear allopurinol, I don't want you to think that it's for acute gout because it's only for chronic gout. It's actually not helpful at all in acute gout, because acute gout, you want to stop the inflammation right away. You want to give them either the NSAIDs or you want to give them the steroids or the colchicine. But the allopurinol, it works really, really great for chronic gout. So why do you want to inhibit xanthine oxidase? So I'm going to tie back to biochem again for you guys. All right, so let's just think right here. So what does a xanthine oxidase do? So you start off with your purine pathway. And remember, we said these are people that have diets that are too high in purines, and that becomes a problem. All right, so the purines get broken down into hypoxanthine. All right, hypoxanthine gets broken down into xanthine. And then xanthine gets broken down into uric acid. All right, so what does xanthine oxidase have to play with this? So xanthine oxidase is going to be the enzyme that takes hypoxanthine to xanthine, and it also takes xanthine to uric acid. So guess what? If you're giving somebody allopurinol, you're blocking both of these steps really, really well. All right, so allopurinol actually stops the production of uric acid by blocking this breakdown path of purines. All right, so now you're not going to be excreting uric acid in your urine, so it's not going to get to be created to be deposited in your joints either, and you don't get the symptoms. So the allopurinol and the febuxostat are great for treating chronic gout because they stop this whole breakdown pathway. Whereas with acute gout, the problem is you've already got the uric acid built up in your joints, so now you just got to stop the inflammation as fast as possible. But the allopurinol, this works over time by stopping this whole breakdown process. Okay, so how we got onto gout in the first place, which is, I love these integrations here. So we got onto this by saying the treatment of tuberculosis, the P stood for pyrazinamide. Pyrazinamide's number one side effect you have to know is it can cause gout. Okay, so the three things we mentioned about gout is we talked about Lesh-Nyhan is like in children that have gout-like symptoms, and they also have that aggressive self-mutilation. Remember, Lesh-Nyhan is more like munch my hand. These patients present with an HGPRT deficiency. So that's hypoxanthine guanine phosphoribosyl transferase. I just remember the abbreviation because that's way easier. All right, remember these babies are going to have a diaper that looks sandy. They're going to be biting themselves. They're going to be really aggressive to their family members. Remember the type 1 glycogen storage disease we talked about that's associated with gout? We call that von Gurk. So the G for Gurk can remind you of gout and hypoglycemia. Remember, they also have hepatomegaly. And so I'm going to throw in another mnemonic just for bonus sake here. To remember which enzyme is deficient with von Gurk, I call it this. I call it von G6P ACE. Instead of calling it von Gurk, my entire life since I made this mnemonic, I call it von G6P ACE because guess what's deficient? Glucose 6 phosphatase. So instead of calling it von Gurk, call it von G6P ACE. All right. Next, we talked about gout itself. So remember, gout is going to affect people that are high in diets of purines. So it's going to be primarily alcohol, red meat, and even some seafood and shellfish. Okay, so purines can get broken down into uric acid and get deposited in your joints, and that causes tophi. Remember, tophi. It's going to affect one toe because it's monoarticular. It causes erythema and warmth, and you're going to get extreme pain. Remember, on synovial fluid analysis of these joints, you're going to have negatively birefringent needle crystals. And in these joints, you can basically break it down into acute versus chronic gout. So if the inflammation is a huge flare of it acutely, then you're going to treat them with NSAIDs, steroids, or colchicine. All right, and remember, colchicine's whole role is it's a microtubule inhibitor. And that is a board question for sure. And so it's not enough to know that it's just a microtubule inhibitor, even though that will get you one question. Another question is going to ask you, why does that matter? Well, it's going to stop the neutrophils from being able to be pulled over to the site of the inflammation. And that right there tells you another fact about gout, is that it has a high predisposition for having neutrophils in your joints. All right, so what happens if it's chronic gout? Well, you use allopurinol or febuxostat. That's going to inhibit your xanthine oxidase. And remember, xanthine oxidase, it plays a role in this purine breakdown pathway right here. So allopurinol stops both of those in their tracks.
Thank you guys so much for joining today. If you found that was helpful, find me on Instagram at Action Potential Mentoring and shoot me a DM saying what your favorite part of today's lesson was. If you have any questions or you'd like some personalized one-on-one assistance with preparing for the USMLE, learning what it takes to become a stellar applicant and matching into your dream specialty, DM me the words VIP Mastermind. Again, that's VIP Mastermind. Talk to you soon.